Has anyone here heard the term perception is projection? So let me explain a little bit what we mean by this. Another way to put this is the quaint saying that people don't see the world as it is, they see the world as they are. How do you know what you're looking at? How do you know what's going on around you? You don't. This is all an illusion that's going on. Your occipital lobe, let's just look at just into the visual sense, right? To be in this room and make sense of me sitting up in this chair, all that's happening is light waves are hitting these little tiny things in the top of your eyes, you call an eyeball. And actually, it's not even that. It's just a little black bit in the side of the eyeball, tiny little hole. It's not getting a lot of light into that, right? But a tiny little hole gets enough light going into it that when the light wave bounces off the retina, it sets off a little electric charge. That charge goes up the optical nerve, comes into a little gap. That little gap gets jumped over with some chemicals. Those chemicals set off another electric charge on the other side, and that process continues until it hits your brain. Then inside your brain, the occipital lobe is primarily responsible for it. It's this nice little part in the back of the head that we patted earlier on. The occipital lobe takes all these chemical electrical signals and cooks up some magic, comes up with some of the parietal lobe understandings of how what it ought to be there. So you don't just see a mass of color, you see a person sitting in a chair, sitting on a blue stage, etc., etc. So there's a whole complex set of activities that have to go on in order for vision to work. If you ask someone who's into optics, they will tell you that one-way vision, in other words, if you don't know what the input source is, it's impossible to see. Vision is impossible. In order for your eye to see, it has to make assumptions about the light source. That's why, for example, when you're in a fog, where the light source is different to the assumptions, rather than being a light source being from the top down from a single unitary point, you now have a dispersed equal light source around you. It becomes very difficult to judge distances and shapes at that point, because the assumptions your brains have to make in order to understand light have been broken, so it slowly starts deteriorating. Does that kind of make sense? It gets more complex than that. We don't need to look at it. I just want to understand the main concept of this. So you don't really know what's going on in this room. You had a vast amount of little things going inside your brain that give you an experience, an illusion, a hallucination that certain things are going on in this room. That hallucination correlates to whatever kind of reality we can experience sufficiently. I agree with them. It's sufficient for you to get a sense of, I know what's going on, I can navigate through this environment, I can succeed. I'm not going to stand in front of a bus because that will kill me. I will eat the hamburger because it won't, unless of course it will. But you get the idea here, right? It's a very complex process, but your brain makes it like a snap. It just creates this illusion of the ease of it. What you're beginning to start seeing now, literally in your mentalization practice, is how that illusion is constructed. Now, what has this all got to do with us? What the hell has this to do with the ASH practice? Okay, this is an interesting phenomena, but unless you're a hardcore psychologist studying perception, for example, it should mean very little to you. So why is this of interest to us? Because there's more mental maps going on inside our heads than where the bathroom is in our apartment or our house. There are mental maps about what things mean. Some of them are useful. That's a bus, it can get you to places. That's a bus and it's moving towards you quickly, better get out of the way. They mean certain things, right? That are of value and use to you. Some of those things mean things that aren't of value to you. People don't like me, I'm not attractive, I can't do this, it's too dangerous, and so on. So when you look at a scene, you're actually not seeing the scene, you're seeing the scene plus the sum total of your life experiences and all the conclusions you've reasoned from those experiences, or in many cases haven't bothered reasoning from those experiences. That's an unconscious form of reasoning, right? The law of association that work there. And so you will interpret them one way, another person will interpret them another way. If I dropped you in the middle of, say, a rave, a lot of you, slightly older generation, will be there and go, this is loud, this is noisy, I hate it, this is like washing machines exploding everywhere, why would anyone want to be here? You throw a teen into the very same environment, they go, this is crazy! Actually, they'll probably use a different word that I don't know. This is word I don't know! Yeah! More word I don't know! More different word that I haven't even heard about yet! Because they're carrying a whole world inside of them, and what they see out there is reflecting that world, and therefore it is good, it is fun. Someone who's not from that generation gets dropped in the same environment, they're also reflecting a world, and the world has, and this world, they're out here, with washing machines exploding, hasn't got Mozart. What a lonely world that is. If they only just played Mozart and they dimmed the lights a little bit, like smoother, had an armchair, then this rave would be wicked. Now, of course, that's an amusing example. But let's take a really harsh example of the same thing. Two people come out of a concentration camp. One, for the rest of their life, will be fearful, terrified, hate the world, and think it's full of mean, ugly, bad people who are out to hurt you. They will be terrified. And at every point, they will double check and verify and distrust. That's a very unpleasant life the person has to leave, isn't it? Another person comes out and is determined to make the most of life. They have a second lease of life. They don't do a job that is soul-destroying. Why? Life's too short. They could end up in this place all over again. Let's make it count what I have left. The exact same experience. One comes out in hell, the other one comes out in heaven. The experience is not the important thing, it's what you carry inside that's important. Those mental maps decide your life. If your life in any way, shape or form sucks right now, if it's unpleasant, frustrating, annoying, boring, whatever you want to call it, it's because you're carrying inside of your world, where that portion of the world, something unhealthy is going on there, and therefore you're suffering. If your life is marvelous, fun, fantastic, filled with delights and gifts, that is also nothing to do with the world out there. It's all to do with the world in here. You are projecting it. You are adding that stuff onto the sensory stimulation that your senses are getting, because your senses have no mind. They will process data like a machine almost. What happens in here that matters. It's the way you make sense of things that matters. If you feel yourself stuck in bucket land, who here, by the way, feels themselves stuck in bucket land to one extent or another? Right? A couple of people putting 2 hands up, right? I understand. Hallelujah, I'm getting out of bucket land. It's not very helpful to tell you it's your fault. You have the wrong maps. You live in the wrong world. It's not very helpful to you. It may be true, but that's just more blame, isn't it? Unless, of course, your world goes, yes, I need someone who's forthright and tells me the truth, so no matter how hard it is. Once again, am I harming you or am I helping you by telling you this? I don't know. I make predictions about what most people's inner worlds look like, which will let me communicate with a large amount of people, but I'll always get it wrong with some, because I'll never understand the nuances in everyone's internal world. But what we're doing now is, what we're working up towards slowly, incrementally, safely, is how do we build a world inside ourselves that we actually want to live in?